Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play Suzerain. So, now it is time, finally, for the assembly vote on the constitutional changes. I imagine these are probably going to be pretty close, but I am hopeful and somewhat expecting that we will win this. At least when it comes to the vote in the assembly. How it goes in the Supreme Court is still way up in the air. Sergey was driving me towards the Grand National Assembly for today's historic vote. It was a big day. I wondered whether my attempt at changing the Constitution would end any differently than Alfonso's. I looked out the window as the noise of the city diminished and saw that we were already inside the palace complex. The complex housed the buildings of all government branches in the center of Holsword. It was one of the biggest developments in Holsword. If it's in the center of Holsword, how does the noise of the city diminish? Because I feel like if it's in the center of the city, you're probably going to have a lot of noise. Unless it is such a large complex. Like, needlessly large. That most of the actual buildings are a good distance away from the rest of the city. Like, you have it walled in, and it's several blocks big, and all the buildings are like in the center. Then okay, I can kind of see how the noise of the city might diminish in that case. But I feel like that's probably not the layout. The Maroon Palace stood on a small hilltop surrounded by trees. We passed by the palace and entered the forest that separated it from the Grand National Assembly. We drove on a small road that wound through the forest. It was a warm day, so I rolled down the window. I could hear birds singing from the trees. Are you okay back there, sir? Hey, Sergey, I'm okay. How are you doing? I'm as good as I can be, sir. Sergey made a left turn out the forest and entered the vast garden area of the assembly. Did you know that Mr. Tarkin's soul came to Holsword this morning? I heard some politicians talking about it today. Apparently this is the first time he's come to the city in the last 5 years. I thought he had left the mainland and lived on Duru Island, never to return to politics, but they were saying he might be here to exercise his Member of Honor rights for the first time. Slow down, Sergey. Are you sure? Yes, sir. I overheard several men talking about it around the gardens of the assembly. It could just be rumors, of course. Do you think he's here because of today's vote? Yes, Sergey, most likely. Well, I'm sure he will support you, sir. A fat chance. I doubt that. Sergey drove inside the gates of the parkway and parked the car. We've arrived, sir. Thank you, Sergey. Good luck with the vote, sir. My family and I are all behind you. I'm sure Sordland is as well. I walked up the white stone stairs of the Grand National Assembly. The entrance looked like a temple gate from the classical era. The door opened to reveal vast corridors of wood and white stone. I joined the crowd of people who were walking slowly towards the parliamentary hall. Suddenly I noticed Lucien emerge from the crowd of packed politicians in front of me. He looked relieved when he saw me. Ah, sir, there you are. Have you seen Vice President Vectorn? He's nowhere to be found. I've just arrived here, Lucien. I hope Mr. Vectorn arrives soon, too. At any rate, how about you, sir? Are you ready to finally face the assembly, sir? Lucien, I have just heard something worrying from Sergey. We'll address that later, sir. Come, we must go inside. We followed the crowd into the parliamentary hall. After we were inside, Lucien and I separated to take our assigned seats. I went up to the mezzanine overlooking the hall and sat down. I waited as the MPs took their places inside the hall one by one. After a while, I saw Gloria walk to her elevated seat at the center of the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We will shortly begin today's agenda of the USP's proposed changes to the Constitution of Sordland. After a short while, everyone was in their seats. According to the current Constitution, constitutional amendments require a 2/3 majority in order to reach Assembly approval. If the vote succeeds, the proposal will be sent to the Supreme Court. The proposal in question includes these points. She started reading the proposal to the Assembly. First section of the changes, Article 57 is modified with the following. She continued reading the proposal, highlighting each section. Section 2, paragraph 36. She went on. May not exercise his right to, and on. The justices of the Supreme Court, most of the MPs, it seemed like they were already falling asleep. Civil majorities considered. The seat was really hurting my back. Section 4, paragraph 44A. It felt like an eternity had passed. Finally, she finished reading the changes. I hereby invite all of you to vote. She struck down her gavel. The loud bang made some MPs jump up in shock as they woke up from their deep sleep. As I previously stated, it will require a 2/3 majority in order to pass, so you may now cast your votes. I felt the need to stand up and stretch. I looked down at the hall from the platform I was seated on. Some Assembly members immediately walked to the ballot box to cast their votes. Most of them, however, began to congregate in groups around the hall discussing the changes. Let's go down to the hall where all the MPs are. I descended from the mezzanine down to the hall. As soon as I reached the bottom of the stairs, Casaro Kipnir approached me. "Mr. President, how are you feeling about the vote?" "Very positive. Even knowing you don't have our support, how optimistic of you. I have lost my respect for you, Mr. Rain. So many problems in Sordland that must be addressed, and yet you insist on stalling us with your democratic reforms. I know you will fail, you will lose the game, and so will your entire administration. I hope to be there when it happens." "Keep hoping, Mr. Kibnir," he laughed. He abruptly turned away from me and walked towards his seat. Then I saw Lucien waving at me. He was among a group of people in the corner of the hall. I walked up to him. On my way, I bumped into Mansoon Leek. "Mr. President, I'm sorry I didn't see you there. I wish you good luck with the vote. Today's a big day for you after all." It's a big day for all of us. Most of the independents will be voting yes, Mr. President. Though we feel it doesn't address the issues we care about the most, it is still a step in the right direction. But I have to say we were disappointed when we first read the proposal. I'm sorry I disappointed you. I hope you don't ignore Brutish rights as well, Mr. President. I've got to go cast my vote. He shook my hand and walked away. I finally reached Lucien, but now deep in conversation with another member of our party, he excused himself and turned towards me. "Sir, did you vote yet? We have to be quick." "No, let's vote." I signed my vote and prepared the envelope. Together, Lucien and I walked to the center of the hall to cast our votes. He kept rushing me throughout the process. Gloria bowed her head slightly in respect as she saw us vote. Lucien pulled on my arm and whispered in my ear, "Mr. President, we may have a problem. Tarkin's soul is here." "I know. You have to accelerate the voting process. We need everyone to vote as soon as possible. We don't know what he's capable of right now, but if Assembly members see him, he might influence them against the proposal." "What can he even do? You, of all people, know the strength of his personality. We must keep the Assembly's attention focused on you and your reforms." Let's shout at the Assembly from the center of the hall. I went to the very center of the hall to shout at the crowd of people who still hadn't cast their votes. Gloria raised an eyebrow when she saw me. "Ladies and gentlemen, vote for the future of Sordland." Many members of the Assembly looked at me with puzzled faces, but at least the USP members seemed to hurry a little faster to the ballot box. Suddenly, Lucien pulled me aside. "Sir, what do we do?" He pointed at the back of the Assembly near one of the exits. I followed his finger to see Tarkin Sol sitting there. He looked much older than he had 5 years ago, but I could tell he had the same fire in him. Some MPs had already gathered around him and were chattering and all. The Assembly gradually went quiet as people started to notice Sol's presence in the hall. Now I have to make sure he doesn't sabotage anything. We should refrain from giving him the spotlight he expects. Maybe you can address him after the vote. As I was talking to Lucien, I spotted Casaro Kibnir walking to the back of the hall towards Tarkin Sol. He bowed in front of Sol and gave him a military salute. Seeing this, more people started to approach him. Suddenly, Gloria came up behind us. "Gentlemen, why don't you go back to your seats? Let's follow the procedure. Oh, by the way, we have 251 members today. As you can see, the Member of Honor is here. He's already cast his vote." "Has he now? So, Miss Troy, how many votes are missing?" "Only a few." Albin Clavin and 3 other men approached us with envelopes in their hands, and these must be them. Good day to you, gentlemen, Madam Speaker. Good day, Mr. Clavin. I'm sorry to take so long, Mr. President. There was a friend who needed more clarification for his vote. He gestured at the men behind him. Let's get this over with, gentlemen. They went ahead and cast their votes. Let's win this, Mr. President. He walked to his seat with a fist in the air. Now, why don't you two get back to your seats as well? Very well, we shall. We both went back to our seats. When I returned back to the mezzanine, I saw Peter sitting in the chair next to mine. Did you cast your vote? Yes, of course. He looked at Gloria as she and her assistants counted the votes. The speaker's seat was only a few meters away from our platform. I really hope this proposal goes through. I hope so too. Let's see. He tried to get Gloria's attention by waving at her. How many votes left? Gloria looked at Peter. She looked annoyed. 117 ayes, 50 more votes to count. Peter turned to me. What? 50 votes left? And we still need 49 more ayes? Shit. It's okay. There's hope. Come on. Peter looked uneasy. Peter pointed at where Franz Richter was sitting. Look at Franz over there. I'm sure he was behind this mess. You shouldn't have trusted him. It's not over yet, Peter. Don't jump to conclusions. Well, a single bang from Gloria's gavel reverberated across the hall. Everyone fell silent. The voting has been concluded. I leaned forward to hear the results. The proposal has 122 ayes and 129 nays. It did not even reach the number of signatures that supported it. Thereby, the Grand National Assembly has decisively rejected the changes to the Constitution. The assembly was roaring with all kinds of different reactions. I felt distraught. I lowered my back and closed my eyes for a second. God, I'm sorry. It's okay. We'll find another plan. The MPs kept shouting in the hall. Among them, I heard Franz Richter's voice. I blame the president for this result. He and his party's weak attitude towards real change doomed us from the start. He's just like his predecessor, enjoying the privilege of the presidency while ignoring the responsibility that comes with it. It is time to realize that real change will only come from real reformists. The People's Freedom and Justice Party will lead this movement. The reformist MPs started applauding him. Suddenly I noticed Tarkin Sol slowly rising from his seat at the back. He seemed to be struggling and used his cane for help. He stood and gazed around the hall as all the members of the Grand National Assembly went silent. I kept watching him as he stared at the MPs. He walked out the exit as 2 of his guards held the doors for him. Thank God he didn't do anything. Soul or no soul, we are definitely fucked. Neither the party nor the public is going to be pleased. Screw Soul and the party, we were always on our own. You were right. So you think we can still survive this? We'll fix this. We both looked down to the floor for a while. After regathering our thoughts, Peter and I walked out of the assembly hall. We waited for Sergei by the entrance. Okay, so that didn't go well. Lucy and Peter and I met in the office and decided to move out onto the balcony to get some fresh air in the increasing summer heat. They both looked uncomfortable in their suits. Peter was trying not to make eye contact and kept letting out depressing sighs. He wiped the sweat off his forehead with a handkerchief. What do we do now? All our plans for nothing. Yes, the USP leadership is beginning to target us as well, not to mention Tarkin Sol himself. Yeah, what the hell was all that about? Sol appearing out of nowhere? He came to the assembly to make a statement, and it worked. I'm sorry that we failed to gather the necessary intelligence about his arrival. Something went wrong on the security reports. I still don't know what. It was partly our fault. Yes, we apologize. That wasn't your fault. In a situation such as this, I would have expected Carl to report it to me, but it's no excuse. We should have done our own research. Let's just move on to our next steps. Of course, sir, we must plan ahead now. We'll be organizing a cabinet meeting to discuss our present and future state of affairs. I will also try to test the waters with our MPs. We can't let the party slip out of our grasp. Good. I want each minister to give me a report. Yes, sir. Lucian looked at his watch. I think it's time to conclude our little meeting, sir. There was a tap on my shoulder. Livia Suno had joined us on the balcony. Pardon the interruption, gentlemen. Mr. President, David Whiskey is calling about the upcoming foreign policy meeting. Perfect timing. Tell him I'll be right there. I will, sir. She turned to leave the balcony, then back to us. My condolences on the vote results, Mr. Brain, Peter. She looked Peter in the eye as she said this, ignored Lucian altogether. Peter's eyes followed her as she walked out. Getting pretty hot out here. Okay, let's call it finished. You may both go. All right, gentlemen. See you later. They both left. So USP criticizes us. Roomberg whistleblower arrives. Okay, so let's see. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. I believe... how you handle the whistleblower depends on some stuff. So, a whistleblower from the Roomberg Security Bureau has escaped to Sordland by crossing the border and turned himself to the authorities in Estord. Agent Chelston Hailstone has promised to reveal extremely sensitive information about the development of a weapons program. We can give him refuge, we can give refuge to him and risk antagonizing Roomberg or send him back. Sending him back has no immediate benefits. However, we're looking to sign a peace treaty with Roomberg later by paying reparations to them. We should send him back. Otherwise, granting asylum will increase the democratic opinion by 1, decrease the Solus opinion by 1, and decrease public opinion by 1. However, we also learn about Roomberg's darkest secret and can use it to our advantage. And by darkest secret, I mean we learn about the weapons program they're working on, which, if I recall correctly, I believe is nukes. Don't quote me on that, though. We're going to grant asylum. Sordland accepts whistleblower. Who is Chelston Hailstone and what does he know? That's the question of the day, as President Rain has agreed to grant refuge to this rogue national security agent from Roomberg. After escaping to Sordland, Hailstone promised to reveal sensitive government information in exchange for asylum. Whether Rain's decision will be worth the anger and possible retaliation from the Roomberg government remains to be seen. Okay, we got a report here. After receiving Agent Chelston Hailstone, we have secretly transferred him to a safe house near Antil. The perimeter is guarded by special forces units to ensure no escape or rescue attempt can be conducted by Roomberg intelligence. They may also be inclined to just eliminate him. So, that's another thing as well. Don't gotta worry about him escaping. Well, don't need to worry only about him escaping or Roomberg attempting to rescue him. They may send people just to eliminate him. The agent is currently being interrogated thoroughly to make sure that the preliminary information provided is accurate. Let's see. Invitation to a movie premiere. I have been invited to an exclusive preview of Alfred Kierbuck's new film, The Morning Shall Come. Although I wasn't in much of a movie-going mood, it would have been unpresidential not to attend. With its massive budget, and this is clearly supposed to be, I think, Kubrick. Directorial's cachet, this drama was set to be a milestone of Sordland's burgeoning film scene. Personally, though, I was just looking forward to spending some time with my family. It was a very hot and sunny day as Sergei drove us to the old capital. The film was to be screened in the historic cinema Angela d'Arloy, the very first cinema in Sordland. Sergei had maxed out the air conditioning to keep the Cadillac comfortable. I kept silent through most of the ride on the H1. I couldn't get my mind off the results of the assembly vote. Frank fidgeted with his tie as he stared out the window. What's wrong, Frank? Since when do you care what's happening in my life? You know I'll support you whether you pass or fail those exams. What an honor, Your Highness. Frank, don't talk to your father that way. He's been working so hard for this country. You're hurting me, Frank. Frank turned his head away to look outside the window. I turned to Deanna. Are you having a good time, sweetie? Deanna nodded happily. What about you, Papa? I know you're sad, but failure helps us grow, right? Exactly. Now, where did you learn that? Deanna giggled. From you. Now, no more politics talk. Isn't that right, Monica? Of course. Let's just focus on having a nice time at the movies. Monica folded her arms. We drove on in silence. Sergei rolled down the soundproof glass between us. Sir, we are about to enter Orlori and we'll be at the cinema in a few minutes. Thank you, Sergei. I took a brief look outside as Sergei rolled the soundproof glass up again. I could see the many towers of Orlori rising over what was left of the old city walls. In the distance, there were several planes flying towards the city. As they got closer to us, I saw that they were military planes that looked like the sharp-edged Arcasian designs. They were probably headed for our new joint military base. Sergei knocked on the glass and gestured forward. We were at the main square of Orlori in the historic cinema, Angele, the Cinema of Angels, was right in front of us. Is this the place? Yeah. It was an old Baroque-style corner building with walls that looked like marble from a distance. There were exquisite ornaments on each side of every window. Sergei pulled the car to the entrance of the building, which was lit by vivid neon stripes in many colors. On the wall next to the entrance, there were painted the words, "Stop the oppression of Bloods." Come on, let's get out. Sergei opened the doors and we exited onto the red carpet. We were just about to enter the building when a journalist managed to block the path. Mr. President, how are you handling the defeat of your constitutional reforms in the Assembly? I'm going to keep fighting for my changes. This isn't over yet. Thank you, Mr. President. And were you aware that Tarkin Sol will be present at the proceedings? Of course I was. Before she could ask anything else, the guards ushered us inside the theater. In contrast with the cinema's Baroque-style exterior, the inside was modern and sleek with bare walls painted in black, red, and white. The film's cast and crew were already in the foyer with glasses of champagne in their hands. We approached the crowd and were welcomed by the producers and the event organizers. A man walked up to us with quick steps. Madam, Mr. President, it's so good to see you here. He gently bowed at Monica and shook our hands. It is an honor to meet you. I'm Alfred Kierbuk. I'm probably going to be pronouncing his name in 20 different ways. The honor is mine. I'm a big fan of your work. Frank snorted. I glanced at him and he innocently took a sip of his cola. It's very humbling to know that you've been watching and enjoying my movies. If you don't mind my asking, which one was your favorite? This one may be slightly different than my previous works. I loved The Swordish Dream. Oh really? Then you might enjoy this one too. I'll admit, I didn't expect you to be such a cinephile. Frank looked at me in the eye and struggled not to laugh. Why don't we take our seats? It's about to start. We entered the screening room, the lights dimmed, and the film began. It was a period drama set in the 1870s about a Swordish soldier who pursues a doomed romance with a widowed Bludish farmer during the conquest of Bergia. I wondered briefly whether Kubrick was commenting on my own treatment of the Bludish people, but then he had finished filming long before I became president. Oh, okay, I don't know why the game sort of got stuck there. As the credits rolled, I made an early exit to use the men's room. I was washing my hands when I heard an unmistakable voice behind me. So, what did you think? Tarkin Sol leaned on his cane. He had the same frail appearance I'd noticed at the assembly meeting, yet up close I could still sense the raw magnetism that had kept him in power for 20 years. I found the plot questionable, but it certainly looked spectacular. What about yourself? Sentimental pablum for the enjoyment of housewives only, and for a period piece, the script contained far too many inaccuracies. Indubitably. I'm surprised to see you're still around, sir. What were you doing at the assembly? My country was about to make a rash decision. I couldn't simply sit by. And are you pleased with the outcome? Quite. There was a glint in his eye. A true president knows when he must step down, a lesson you'd be wise to learn yourself. I will not let you and the bleeding heart idiot Richter tarnish my precious constitution. You tarnished it enough for both of us already. Ha! Some of his spittle landed on my cheek, as if you, Anton Rain, are above it all, as if you're capable of remaining president without getting your hands dirty. I'm no saint, but I'm trying to act for the good of the country. You'll find out soon enough how your country repays you for your goodness. He slipped past me and out the door. Sol's security staff and mine were now clustered outside the washroom, forming a buffer against the large crowd that had gathered. That's Tarkin Sol, I heard someone scream. His guards closed around him and mine around me. By the time the chaos subsided, I was back in the car with my family and Sol was long gone. Okay. Took you guys a while to write that article, evidently. Rain to keep fighting for reforms following assembly defeat. Yes. Investment surge boosts GasOM. Oh shit. Growth went down. That ain't great. Peaceful protests. Okay. Okay. Gondas threat. Two organizations declare support for BFF. GasOM branch boosts local economy. I'm not showing an actual icon there. GasOM experiences boom and expands the workforce. Again, our growth went down. That ain't exactly great. GasOM branch opening boosts local economy here as well. That's wonderful. Agnolia warns against Volkslandian threat to the seas. Okay. What do we got down here? Drita extends blessings on Dissension Day. Okie dokie. ATO's IEC uncovers energy resources in Polaris. Okay, where is that exactly? Okay. Does not appear to be on our map. Although I am kind of looking for an actual country named Polaris, and that may not be the case. It might be a city. Yeah, not sure for that, honestly. Oop, apparently I've got something else out here. CSP sends Peace Armada to assist XEC. Okie dokie. I think I'm gonna probably end this part here as well. It's quite a bit of a short part, but nonetheless. I will see you all next time, where we will be doing these events. I think the biggest, most important one for us is obviously going to be the briefing on the diplomatic strategy. But until next time, goodbye and farewell.